What's up, guys? It is the Scarlet Duelist back again with yet another video that I'm confident calling pretty good. This is my Mekk-Knight Invoked profile, and it is built to choose to go second, but it can go first using cards like Link Slayer, Time Maiden, and Photon Thrasher. And actually, I also forgot about this. This is Hornet Drones, which is a one-card Alistair. So as long as you can get yourself to an invocation, you can end on True King of All Calamities going first and then push for game the turn after, especially using hand traps. So I'm going to show you just a few replays in just a moment, but I'll talk about the profile here and what each card does little by little. I may not explain everything like as far as Alistair because I feel like at this point we all know what he does. So this will be pretty quick, hopefully, and then we'll show you, or I don't know why I said we, it's just me. I will show you some replays that I have, just because live duels were just really hard to do. The last video that I made, just with the program that I use to record the screen, it sometimes does quit, so that way I don't lose footage. I just will show you replays. It's a lot easier to re-record that. So without further ado, here is the profile. I've got two Purple Nightfall. A lot of people run this at 3, and that's fine. I just use 2 because I just found that I was seeing him too much, and you can only use him once per turn, so I just have him at 2 because I can search him out and then have him still be a recurring card to get Blue Sky. But yeah, the ratios can really be whatever you want them. If you want to reverse Blue Sky and Nightfall, I know that's the most common way that Mekk-Knights are run, but this way works for me. So again, that's totally up to preference in my opinion. I do know for going first, Purple Nightfall can be a little easier, but again, we're still choosing to go second, so Blue Sky just has a little bit more of a payoff if you open on him. So that's why I run him at 3, but I understand, again, why some people choose not to. Next, we have 1 Indigo Eclipse, which I've experimented running at 2, but I think 1 is good enough. But he's really good because he can change the column of a Mekk-Knight monster. It doesn't even have to be himself, which works really well with this searchable trap, World Legacy Secret. You can then begin to negate with moving your Mekk-Knights, and that really amounts to 2 negates because when you activate this on your opponent's turn to negate, you bring this back, and then another monster effect they would activate, you can move him to that column and then negate that. So it's a really good combo if you do end up going first with Mekk-Knights. You can search it out making Morningstar. You can search this, rather. Then we have Red Moon. He's a monster destroyer, so monster removal there. I said destroyer, weird, I didn't mean to, but there it is. I just lost the word for a minute, but hopefully you got the idea. Then we have Yellow Star. This is a spell and trap removal. You have to make sure you have a Mekk-Knight in the grave to remove from play, but that's not too hard considering you are running, 8 of them. So you usually do end up with at least 2 in hand because of 5 of your Mekk-Knights being searchers. So yeah, pretty easy to do. And then we've got Link Slayer here. He is really good because he synergizes well by being a spell and trap removal, but also getting something that's dead in hand into the grave to be an invocation target. And then on top of that, he's really good at being link material for either Morningstar or, I clicked on the wrong one, or for Invoker of Madness here because he's a different type and attribute from all your other cards. So a special summon and just bringing out something else can get you to your Alistair, the Invoker of Madness, and get you to some of those cool plays, or at least get you a Morningstar, depending on, when you're going. Then we have Blue Sky, which I already explained. He's our main searcher. Really easy to get him out as long as there are 2 cards in a column, 1 being your opponent's. Then you can bring out your Nightfall and go on. But yeah, it's really, really good. I really like the card. Then we have Alistair the Invoker. You know what this does. This gets you Invocation. Time Maiden, which I've seen teched into Time Thief Invoked, or not Time Thief. Gosh, I keep saying the wrong things. My apologies. I've seen this teched into Mekk-Knight Invoked, the deck we're talking about, and I've seen it only put at 2 for some reason. I think that's a mistake. If you want to see this, definitely have it at 3 because it's good going second or first. It gets you just another monster on the board to either make Link Karibo and then a Macabre, or you can use it to make the Invoker of Madness, and then you're all set up for your Calamity play. So I don't know why you wouldn't run this to the max possible, because when siding, you can also tech in some of the Time Lords here that can win you the game. So especially when it comes to time, using this Time Lord here. But yeah, we'll get into more of the side deck later. Then we obviously have our hand traps, 3 Ash, 2 Ogre, and 2 Veiler, because they're all invocation targets and they stop your opponent from getting too much of a broken board because you are choosing to go second. You don't want them to get full combo, so you do want to interrupt them a little, but so that they still have cards on board, so that then you can bring out your things, remove them, and attack and push for game. Kind of that's why Photon Thrasher is here too. He's there because you can still make a Redoer and then a Macabre combo, and that's a really disruptive combo to make. So if you can't interrupt an attack for game next turn going second, you can at least build a really disruptive board. And this kind of functions the same way that Time Maiden does, just no ability to make Link Karibo, but you don't need to. Link Karibo is just an added bonus sometimes. Then we have Terraforming to get us to our 2 Magical Meltdown. As I mentioned in my Time Thief Invoked profile, I felt that having Magical Meltdown at 3 really sucks because I don't know what it is, if it was just my bad luck, but I would just always open 2 Magical Meltdown or Magical Meltdown and a Terraforming. And I would just rather have the ability to bait out Ashes with a Terraforming and then activate Meltdown if I'm going to end up with both. So yeah, Meltdown getting negated kind of sucks, and it's a dead draw when you have multiples. So I just put 2 Terraforming and 2 Meltdown. You still essentially with that are running 7 copies of Alistair to get to your invocation. So the likelihood of you opening on the right card, aka Alistair, is very high, even with 1 less Magical Meltdown. It just keeps you from bricking too much. Then we have Mind Control at 2, because once again, at 3, I would just see it too much, and I didn't really need it all that often. It's a good disruptor. It's a good card to cause negates to happen, because it's going to force your opponent to negate stealing their monster. Then you can go off with your plays. But it's not something that you need to win, so that's why I put it in at 2. It's not a necessity, but it's good sometimes. Then we've got Invocation at 2, just because it's a brick sometimes to run more than that, because you can search it so much, you don't need to be running 3. Then we have Instant Fusion. It's just another play starter. You essentially are running 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 play starters to get your plays going if your opponent would happen to make you go first. So that's why this build works really, really well. And it's so good. It's really fun too. But yeah, Mecha Hornet Drones, kind of the same deal as Instant Fusion. You're just trying to get your plays started, and get something going either with your Mekk-Knights or your Invoked engine, maybe both. We've got 1 Book of Law because it's searchable. This is in case you can OTK your opponent with, a Macabre and then going into Purgatrio or reverse that. This just really helps with pushing for game and just attacking and winning. So that's why it's there, but it's searchable with Invoker of Madness, so no need to run more than 1. Prohibition is our pseudo Called by the Grave. So in a going second deck, you don't really want to play Called by the Grave. It's very much a going first card. Now, I'm not saying you shouldn't play it at all. I just don't, because I've got so many hand traps that I'm going to stop my opponent, and if they do happen to, I've just got things that can bait it, I guess is what I'm trying to say. But if you do play Prohibition, you can call the hand trap that's going to stop you the most, and you've also created a column for your Mekk-Knights. And even if you know your opponent is not playing any hand traps, you can call the card that's going to be the card that they need in order to get their plays going. Assuming it's not on the field, but if you remove it, even if it was on the field before, they can no longer activate it again. So it's just a really powerful card, but I would run either this or Called by the Grave only at 2, because you are going second deck. In today's format, Called by the Grave, once again, is just more of a going first card to make sure that you can open up with those broken boards. If we were playing an Orchist build, we would definitely have 3 Called by the Grave, because you need that, or otherwise if they stop you, your turn's kind of over. It's not like that in this deck. You can still push for other things depending on what they negate. But yeah, this is here to help with columns and with the occasional worry that a hand trap could happen. So it's there. Then we have Magical Meltdown. You know what this does. But again, more than two just felt unnecessary after a while, the more and more I play tested. And after my experience at the regional running it at three, I just didn't feel it was necessary to do that. So, yeah, it's at two. And we've got our searchable World Legacy Secret. This allows you to set up 4 negates, similarly to that of Orchest, in the sense that the way that it searches and gets itself set up is you'll end on basically 3 negates, depending on what your hand looked like. So, having one is great for your initial game. I have 2 more in the side deck just in case I do side to go completely first. That way I can make sure I open on this and then just search for World Legacy's memory, hopefully, because that will allow me to get my 3rd or 4th negate going first. So that's why I have this. You can even reverse that. It really doesn't matter if you want to run this at 3 and then this at 1. Both are searchable, so it really doesn't matter. I've seen people do both. But essentially, they're going to accomplish the same goal going first in a Mekk-Knight deck. They're there to bring out another Mekk-Knight in a column. That way it negates an opponent's effect. So that's why it's there. You can play with this, and really there's no wrong way to put those ratios of your World Legacy cards in just because they're searchable. But yeah, let's go into the extra deck, then we'll talk more about the side deck. So I've got Link Karibo just in case, because I can pull out the level 1s pretty easy and then make that to protect myself. I don't make it often, but it's there if I need to. And it's also just there to free up and make a column in case I want to make Morning Star. So then we have Kagari, which is an instant Alistair the Invoker of Madness. And Alistair here is honestly what makes making Calamities possible, because you invoke your first Mekk-Knight, and then it searches out your other invocation, and then you make another one. So then you overlay into Calamity, and your opponent is not going to be using any monster effects next turn if you make Calamity. And from there, you're all set up to make another invoked monster next turn and just push for game. Morning Star is for your Mekk-Knight negate plays. You usually make this if you go first, but you can also do it if it's the only thing you can do. But I would highly advise going into your Alistair if you can, going second. And then if you're going first, make Morning Star, because this is what searches your World Legacy cards and gets you the big board set up to attack. Afterward, of course, after you negate your opponent. Then we've got Borreload, because this can win you games sometimes. Going second, you're going to choose to. So maybe after you break bits of your opponent's board, you can't make some of the other ideal Link and Fusion plays. You can at least make Borreload and steal and push for as much damage as possible. Redoer is possible with Photon Thrasher, so that play is something that you guys have seen in my Time Thief Invoked profile. It's really powerful and disruptive, but usually that's something you'll do if you're going first as well. And if you side for absolutely going first, as in like you actually want to, then you would put in the Solemn Strikes as well. Then we've got Lancelot here. I honestly put this in for fun. You could substitute this for whatever card you want to, but it's in there because we've got some level 8s, and I thought, hey, that's kind of fun. But we rarely ever need to or will make it. It's just kind of in there because we had some extra deck space. Next, I've got Thousand Eyes. That's there as an instant fusion target. Kind of same thing with Kaliga, although we do occasionally make it with Invocation to stun our opponent. Then we've got 1 Purgatrio to OTK and push for game. 3 Mekk-Knight, because if you use 2 to make Calamity, they're kind of gone. And then the next turn over, you still have 1 left that you can make, and then hopefully push for game by searching out Book of Law, because you've still got your Invoker of Madness on the field. You'll make your last Mekk-Knight, search Book of Law, attack, and then activate Book of Law, go into Purgatrio or another invoked monster, and then push for the last bit of damage, and so on. Or even reverse that, you can make Purgatrio first, and then use Book of Law to make your last Mekk-Knight, and then attack for the further game. You know, it could be either way, whatever order you want to go in. And then finally, we have Invoked Elysium, just because it is some mass removal that's right there in the extra deck as soon as we want it. Super easy to make, and so, yeah, it's really, really useful, guys. This deck is really, really oppressive and really good as long as you make your moves at the right time. I don't want to be one of those people that says as long as you play it right, because that's like duh. Obviously, the pilot makes the deck, not necessarily the build, but yeah, when you make things at the right time, this deck can be really, really good. It's just that some people, I think, get so caught up in what the strategy of this deck usually is that they don't make plays that are right for the moment, and that's why this deck is getting written off as unable to compete. I disagree, definitely, but you do have to adapt it to be able to go first a little bit, because as soon as your opponent finds out what you're playing, game one, chances are they're going to choose going first if they win the die roll, which is okay with you, because you probably would have picked going second, but from there, they're going to tell you to go first, knowing what you're playing, assuming you do win or, whatever. So that's something you need to prepare for, which is why the side deck has a lot of going first cards in it, minus Regeki, of course, but you can set that and then activate it later. This is there. There are still some going second cards because you still want to side for what your deck normally does, but in a way that can take care of what your opponent's doing. So we've got a little bit of both. This isn't a perfect side deck by any means. I would probably rethink it and refine it for if I did take this deck to an event, of course. I know I say that in every video. But yeah, these are just some things I've thought about for the side deck. And now we will go and play through some of our replays, and I'll show you exactly what the deck can do. I just went right back into deck edit. I'm an idiot. All right, the first one, hopefully it'll work. I honestly forget what happened, but we will find out in just a moment. So here we are. I do forget what deck I'm playing against. Oh yes, Dark Magician. It's not meta, but at least can show off what the deck can do. So yeah, they don't have anything really monster-wise, so we're going to try to just push for game. And then, of course, they do because they summon with traps, but I don't know why they did that because they don't have Dark Magic Circle, so it didn't really seem like something they needed to do. Maybe they just wanted to protect their life points. Who knows? But yeah, as you can see, it's working just fine going second. We're not having an issue with a board being too broken. You might every once in a while, like, of course, there are things like Thunder Dragons and Crusadia Guard Dragon that can build some crazy boards, but you can still bait a lot of those negates and bring out some really oppressive cards and win that way. So yeah, I think we push for game here, if I'm not mistaken. It looks like, yeah, we for sure did. Yeah, see, so it did exactly what it does. It's so good, guys. I don't know why people are writing this off. Here's the second one. Again, I don't remember exactly what decks I played. It's been a while. And by a while, I mean like a day. But yeah, we'll see. Oh, yeah, that's right. It was Destiny Heroes. So that's why you have your hand traps, because you can make sure they have something for you to play your cards with, but they don't build that oppressive board. So you just got to be strategic. Put in hand traps and then you're fine, honestly. Because if they don't get called by the grave at the same time that you have a hand trap, then you're golden. Oh yeah, I forgot I did that. So I think I OTK again here if they don't surrender. I can't remember exactly, but yeah, I'm pretty sure I can. Yeah, that's an OTK. So yeah, even if you don't get like the most negaty board in the world, you can at least undo their boards or at least prevent them from building them, and then just attack for game. So yeah, as you can see, it does some really cool stuff. Then we've got this third one here. I don't know if I have any of me going first. I can't remember. All these have been going second, so I apologize if you're like, yeah, well, you showed it going second, but not first. But I do promise you it can. You just choose to go second because, like, duh, you want to be smart. But I've built the deck so that going first doesn't completely destroy you. Now, in this scenario, we would have been kind of like, well, Macabre it is. But, with instant fusion, we can get some stuff done. So we'll see. Honestly, unrelated to this, I'm just going to rant for like a hot second. I hate trick stars. I hate burn decks of any kind. I just feel like that's so boring. No offense to people who play trick stars, but a little bit offense to you, because why are you playing that deck? It's so boring, But I guess to each their own. Oh, yeah. I remember what we got. Yeah, this is really cool. So yeah, it's very consistent as far as being able to get out boards like this. And then you can make Calamity. I don't know if I do this time. No, I think I try to push for game, but I just missed the mark by that much. Yeah, by 100. I'm pretty sure they surrender. I forgot to overlay into... Well, I can't, because Purgatrio's there. That's right. I forgot Alistair wasn't there anymore. But normally when you double Macabre, you can just make Calamities, and then you're good. The one thing that I don't know why I did here was make double Macabre with no way to negate anything. That was kind of silly of me. But hey, it happens. Yeah, there's not really, I mean, cool, I guess. Reincarnate me a little bit. They try to burn me, but it's not going to happen. Yeah, they surrendered at that point. They should have. At that point, the game was over. And we've got our last one here. I think they are all me going second because I usually choose to. But as you can see, when you open on these, you can go first just fine. I do apologize. I thought I had at least one replay of me going first, but I guess not. So some of you might be like, well, you can't prove it, but I assure you that it can happen. I've done it. I just didn't save the replays, I guess. I don't know why, but I try to keep these short. So yeah, this is really cool though. We got to wreck Crusadia Guard Dragon, which was pretty fun. Because again, if you stop them in the right plays, guys, they can't really do anything. Specifically with Guard Dragons. I don't mean every deck, obviously, but because that just depends. But yeah, Crusadia Guard Dragon, you always stop them on LP because then they're locked into dragons. They can't do anything. So if you hand trap at all, definitely hand trap the LP. I think, oh yeah, that's right. I didn't get to OTK there. Because I'm too poor for Boral Sword. Ba-da-da-dun-dun. And then they surrender. Yep. All right. And that is the deck. So hopefully, guys, how to talk. A book I'm not writing because I can't, because authors can probably make words happen. Anyway, hopefully you guys enjoyed watching that. I do apologize again that there was not a going first video. But once again, I'll clarify and cover. If you are going to go first, you know, let's say your opponent's like somehow premeditated and like, you know what, I want to go. Let's say you're playing a Cyber Dragons player and they win the die roll and they want to go second, which is normally what you want to do. You usually will go for your plays with Photon Thrasher, Time Maiden, or Link Slayer. Then you make an Invoker of Madness, and then you make your double Macabre and overlay for Calamity. That's your going first play, which you can easily get done as long as you can get out two monsters with a different type and attribute. You are golden, and as long as one of them is Alistair the Invoker, again, you've calamity'd. It's that easy. If you have an Alistair and one other card with a different type and attribute, you can make Calamity. So, yeah, it's that simple. And that's why I'm saying this deck can definitely go first. People just don't recognize that that's possible, I feel like. But yeah, that's it, guys. Hopefully you enjoyed the deck profile. Give it a try. Definitely change things up to your own liking. These are just meant to be skeletons to show you what certain decks can do. I'm definitely not saying that my way is always best. I just like it the way I like it, you know? So if you liked it, give the video a like, subscribe, and see ya.